There's something for every motorsports fan in the TUDOR United SportsCar Championship. You want fierce competition? Thus far in the 4 classes of Prototype, Prototype Challenge, GT Le Mans, and GT Daytona, 17 race victories have been claimed by 14 different teams. You want world-class drivers? 2 weeks ago in France, nearly half of the 168 competitors at the legendary 24 Hours of Le Mans had TUDOR Series experience, including 2/3 of the drivers who reached the podium. You want legendary racetracks? Round 3 of the Tequila Patrón North American Endurance Cup means a visit to Watkins Glen International, a circuit in the hills of New York State that has hosted Formula One, Can-Am, Trans Am, NASCAR, and of course, sports cars for 6 decades. You want it all right now? Welcome to the halfway race of the 2015 TUDOR United SportsCar Championship. It's the Sahlen 6 Hours of the Glen, live on Fox Sports 1. At the foot of Seneca Lake, Watkins Glen, New York, was the post-war birthplace of American road racing. Also the home of Watkins Glen International, which in turn is the home of round 6 of the TUDOR United SportsCar Championship for 2015, the Sahlen 6 Hours of the Glen, powered by Audi. Despite some decidedly gnarly weather, we have a big crowd of knowledgeable Watkins Glen race fans on hand for the race, now set to begin in less than 10 minutes, live here on Fox Sports. Hi, everybody. I'm Bob Varsha with Calvin Fish and Tommy Kendall, both of whom have won races here at Watkins Glen. Back in 1968, the first 6 hours was held here on a hot summer day. Weather will pose another challenge today. We've had heavy rain all weekend. It washed out qualifying, so the team will start in championship order. This is also round 3 of 4 in the Tequila Patrón North American Endurance Cup, honoring the best teams over the 4 longest races of the year. We'll award points toward a big cash bonus at halfway and at the finish of the race. But we come into this event, Calvin, off a huge buzz over that race 2 weeks ago in France, Le Mans.
It was a fantastic race, Bob, and the big news, of course, was that Audi finally got beaten there after a remarkable run. It took the perfect race, and the perfect race was put together by the number 19 Porsche, co-driven by Formula One star Nico Hülkenberg, and 2 of the stars of our championship who are competing here today, Earl Bamber and Nick Tandy. Bamber actually had the fastest race lap for that car at the 24-hour race, and Tandy was simply sensational. We believe he put together the fastest ever raced in at the 24-hour race. They're riding a wave of confidence. They need that today to try and get Porsche back on top in the GTLM category, Tommy.
Yeah, that's for sure. And like Tandy and Bamber, Oliver Gavin and Tommy Milner came into Watkins Glen off that huge, flawless race win, feeling 10 feet tall. Going into the race, different look for Corvette. You had the 3 car that was on the roll. They'd swept Daytona and Sebring. The 4 car had a 2-year slump. When the 3 car got destroyed on Thursday with a stuck throttle, the 4 car had to step up in a big way and break that slump, which they did. Now the question is, coming back to the States, what's going to happen to these 2 teams? Is that momentum enough to get the 4 back on track? And more importantly, can the 3 get their mojo back? Huge setback for that team in their psyche. Can they get back on track and maintain their points lead?
And let's not forget the 3rd driver in that winning Corvette, Jordan Taylor, now moves back over to his day job, driving the family hot rod in the prototype class. With more on prototype, here's Brian Till.
Bob, prototypes have been spectacular this year as far as competition goes. In fact, no driver has qualified on the pole more than once, and no team is a repeat winner. We'll see if that changes today. Fitting then with rain canceling qualifying, our championship leaders, the number 5 from Action Express and number 90 from VisitFlorida.com. They are tied in the championship. They'll start on the front row side by side, but a different approach for those 2 teams. The number 5 team, they've got an extra driver. Max Pappas has won this race before. He's lined up in the reserve slot in case they need. If the 90 will go with just the 2 regulars, Richard Westbrook and Michael Valiente. The problem, Valiente a little under the weather. Everybody's going to have to watch the 60, though, from Mike Shank Racing. They have been fast in every practice session here, wet or dry. A little larger air restrictor. That team feeling racy. Jamie?
Well, in GTLM, the number 3 Corvette does lead the point standing, so they also start on the class pole today. But as Tommy mentioned, they had that devastating accident at the 24 Hours of Le Mans. That put a halt to the stellar season that they had so far built up. Magnussen had that stuck throttle, big crash. He walked away from it. However, the car could not be repaired. The team did not see the green flag. Today, that car has still not been repaired, and they're actually taking the green flag here with the help from their customer team, Marber Competition, who have loaned them their chassis. Right behind them on the grid today, though, is a pair of BMW Z4s from Team RLL. They've been on a hot streak lately. They've won the last 2 races. They've been racy in wet and dry conditions so far, so keep an eye on the number 22 and 24 and 25. Brian?
Hey, Jamie, in Prototype Challenge, it's not uncommon to see the 54 of Core Autosport at the top of the team and drivers' championship charts. That's where they are right now. What is uncommon is to see them without a win at this point in the season. I spoke with the team and they said, look, we've had the little hiccups here and there, but we've been fast, we've led races, we're not changing anything, we're not going to get off of our game plan. If we just go for race wins, the championship could elude us. We're just going to stay focused and try to win the race that we won last year, get back on track. That race right here at Watkins Glen, the 6 hours, Sahlen to the Glen.
Well, in GT Daytona, the grid has 4 different manufacturers in the top 5, and based off points, it's the number 48 Audi R8 from Paul Miller Racing on the class pole. They don't have a win this season, but they have consistently finished in the top 5. Right behind them, though, the TRG Aston Martin Racing Vantage of Christina Nielsen, joined this weekend by reigning GTLM champion Kuno Whitmer. But with the Alex Job number 22 Porsche, the Scuderia Corsa Ferrari on the second row, it's going to be a fight at the top. Make sure, though, to keep an eye on that 5th place, number 23 from Alex Job, Team Seattle. That duo, they've won 2 races so far this season, not in the points chase, but they will be in the mix. Bob?
All right, thank you, Jamie and Brian. If there's one silver lining to missing qualifying, we've got 4 classes on track, 4 close championship battles, and the leaders in those class standings will start next to each other in the Sahlen 6 hours of the Glen. Stay with us. Glen International, Tommy.
Finger Lakes region of upstate New York, and an incredible road course that's inviting lots of comparisons to the Nordschleife. Obviously a bit shorter, but the natural terrain, the climbing, the low margin for error. You got the S's and then the famed boot, turn 6, 7, 8, and 9.
You see the prototype field bunching up in anticipation of a green flag. Notice all those raindrops. We weren't supposed to see more rain for at least 2 hours into this race, but we've already seen at least one car, and there goes one of the Mazdas. That's the 07 car. Is going to come in and
look at that.
Presumably switch, but we are green at Watkins Glen.
Westbrook nearly turned it sideways. There's the Action Express duo go to the front. Fittipaldi, Cameron tucks to the inside, coming off that big win at Detroit.
Misting rain in the air, damp, but...
Oh, they're sideways. Cameron looks to the inside for the lead.
Some are on slicks, some are presumably on wet, treaded tires. Here comes the GT TLM field. Something in the weather here at Watkins Glen.
Not a great start for Bill Auberlen in the white of the 2 BMWs, but one of the Porsches goes down the inside. Big move there by PILET.
3 Corvette takes the early lead.
You can see them swimming around. Got to be a mixture of tires. The guys on slicks will be struggling right now.
Up through the S's.
Difference in service. You see the concrete patches, Tommy. You got the blacktop. Then there's this sealer, which has really given the drivers fits. You see it right there on the. You finish off the S's and come onto that back straightaway.
And this is normally an incredibly fast section of the track. You can see how slow the cars are going and how slick it is.
PILET to the lead. Porsche go back on top.
Well, it's clearly raining hard up there as they go through the inner loop. That chicane on the long infield straightaway.
To get the info on what all these guys are on tire-wise, because you see some of the guys slipping back, and I'd have to think those guys may be gambling a bit at this stage on slicks.
And there is Mario Farnbacher making some moves. 2 wins in the bank already this year. And one of the guys that compared it to the Nordschleife was Mario Farnbacher.
Look at this, you see Kaffer there. That's one of the GTLM cars going relatively slow as the GTD cars spin. Auberlen's involved, as is one of the Porsches.
Able to drive away. It's the 25. Auberlen. So spinning his wheels.
PILET, we believe, may have been the one that had the lead coming out of the bus stop. So not sure if he maybe looped it and Billy just got caught up and it will wait for a replay.
You can see just how slick that rain-soaked ground and grass off the track surface is. What a diabolical mix.
Coming off of 2 wins. Oh, now it was Billy who lost it.
Yeah. Does the Porsche get into him? Might have been light contact. as the field scrambles around. Some of the PC cars in the mix with the GTLM and GT Daytona class machines.
Things settling down at the front. Fittipaldi with a healthy lead over his Action Express teammate Dane Cameron. Westbrook settles into third. Negri, that 60 car, that Shank Racing Ligier HPD has been flying here in dry conditions this week.
Our Continental Tire leaderboard across the top of your screen, along with a countdown clock through the 6 hours.
Delta Wing is looking strong. Rojas up to the 6th spot.
Done a lot of testing with that car. New lightweight chassis, but heavier components in that remarkable machine.
Board here with Joey Hand in the Ford EcoBoost Ganassi entry. You can see these guys just tiptoeing on the throttle. You've got to be so careful.
Let's take a look at Bill Arberlin's spin from on board the BMW Z4. Team car up ahead, twitching slightly. It'll happen coming off this left-hander. Just tiptoeing.
The folks at home, it's like driving on ice in the winter. It's just unbelievable how slow you have to go to just maintain the car on the racetrack. So we see it's the 912 that got involved. The 912, not the 911.
Calvin, you were talking about rain tires. Really, the only car I saw with rain tires on it was the Mazda prototype and the Delta Wing. Everybody else down here, especially in the prototype category at least, was on slicks. And the problem isn't just tires, it's also how you set your car up. Are the springs soft or are they stiff? Are you betting that it's going to go dry and you want that stiffer platform? Or are you betting that it's going to stay wet and you go softer? A lot of the teams just kind of found a middle ground. But tires right now, at least up front, most of them are slicks, Jamie.
GTLM, the number 17 Team Falcon tire entry just came to pit lane. They switched to the rain tires. I was also listening to the radio for the 911 Porsche. They said, Patrick, tell us if you want to switch to rain tires. And he said, I'll let you know, guys. So right now he's still out on slicks.
That's impressive because he went to the front in a hurry on slick tires on a treacherous track, Tommy.
When you see the GTLM BMW slipping back into these GTD cars, now these cars have sophisticated traction control. The GTLM cars have sophisticated traction control. So that spin by Arberlin took place. I mean, you could tell he was even looking at the throttle and it was starting to spin. So I'm guessing these lead GTD cars are likely on rain tires.
Yeah, you can see there Edwards has been swamped as well by some of the GTD field in the black, the number 24 BMW.
007 TRG Aston Martin in the hands of Kuno Whitmer, Canadian who's certainly seen conditions like this before, I'm sure.
Oh, look at that deep move there by Madison Snow. Wow. Awesome. Moves up to the 2nd spot and looking for the lead. And that Christopher Haase.
That car on the first pace lap came to the pit lane and had switched to the rain tires. I think everybody thought it was, kind of mixed conditions heading towards dry. And so look for him. He's going to, when all these other cars have to head for the pits, he's going to be able to stay out, topped up with fuel as well.
I think you're right, Tommy. I think this weather caught people out. They were counting on it drying up. It has not.
It's not real warm either. You don't have a high ambient temperature here today for June, so that's a factor too in terms of getting those slick tires, which are obviously a harder compound than a wet weather tire, getting them up to temperature. And you need to load the car. When you can't load the car because you don't have the grip, it's kind of a cycle there, snowballs on you.
Yeah, you can't get it started. The brake, obviously, even without much temperature, ability to use the brakes with no drip, you can't generate heat that way either.
Here's what we're talking about with the weather, with our WeatherTech weather information.
You'll need those WeatherTech rubber mats today, I tell you.
Boy, 65 degrees, I'm not so sure. And it's even more humid than 88%. A little bit of a breeze would help, but right now just 4 miles per hour. Jamie?
Well, Bob, as we were getting ready for the green flag, all the teams were lined up on pit lane and there was no moisture in the air. However, just moments before the green flag fell, it did start to rain, so it caught a couple people out. But right now on pit lane in the front straightaway, there's no more rain coming down. We'll see what happens.
Le Mans GT Pro winner Oliver Gavin spun the number 4 Corvette. You saw headlights coming. Okay, he's gotten halfway through his U-turn.
Well, you talked about it, Tommy. This 4 car has had a 2-year dry spell. Nothing's gone right for them in this championship, and you can see he's into the Armco. How badly damaged, we do not know yet, but they had that win at Le Mans, but they've done nothing right here for 2 years now. It's Motorsport 2013. They had their last victory.
Skittering around.
It's easy sitting up here in the booth. but he's going to barely touch the throttle between the concrete patch and the sealer and the worn race line. He's going to be in a straight line,
Yep.
I mean, ironically, he was under pressure from Madison Snow, and even though he's not racing that, you see the guy coming up on you, and did he go to the throttle a couple feet or a little bit harder, just maybe trying to get out of the way, but really, really treacherous.
Well, the other thing is, with the GTLM cars, a lot more aerodynamic force on the car, so you tend to run a stiffer platform with that. With the GTD cars, they're a little bit softer in their compliancy. That's going to be in their favor in these type of conditions.
Yeah, so they would not have as dramatic a difference between a wet and a dry setup.
Your top 4 in GT Daytona right there. Madison Snow, Christopher Haase, Kuno Whitmer, last year's GTLM driving champion in a Viper, and Mario Farnbacher. Another look at the 4 spin.
Luckily, he didn't collect
he was
Christopher Haase right there. Madison Snow has got the lead in GTD as we see it right there.
So it's Porsche, Audi, Aston Martin, and Porsche, the top 4 in GTD.
So cool to see Kuno back. You know him well from your Viper days, Tommy. A real talent. Won the Drivers' Championship last year, and at the same time, Viper pulled the plug in terms of their program, and he was left a little bit high and dry. We saw him at Daytona get the win with the Viper team in GTD, but since that time, been scrabbling trying to look for a ride.
I mean, just a stunning turn of events. I mean, to be working hard in a little bit of obscurity his whole career, to get that shot, to make the most of it, and then have the rug pulled out from under him. Kuno is one of the nicer, more upbeat guys you'll ever meet, but obviously this, anytime he can get back in a frontline car, this is a big deal for him, and he's paired with Christina Nielsen because James Davison is at the Pirelli World Challenge race.
Wow. What a way to start a 6-hour event here at Watkins Glen International. Mixed weather conditions, mixed tires on the car, lots of slipping and sliding. There are your 4 class leaders. We'll be back. Racing began on the streets of the village of Watkins Glen back in 1948. In 1956, a proper racing circuit was opened, and it is the only track in America that has hosted every major form of world motorsport, creating lots of memories, introducing lots of racing superstars along the way. Welcome back to the Sahlen's 6 Hours of the Glen, powered by Audi. Go to foxsports.com/Tudor for live onboard video streams of the TUDOR United SportsCar Championship Series from today's race now. On board the number 90, third place prototype in the hands of Richard Westbrook. As you can see, the rain seems to be growing heavier as he climbs the hill out of the boot.
Growing heavier, but he's maintaining pretty good corner speed, so he's clearly gotten some heat into the tires, which some of the onboards we've seen with the GTLM guys just tiptoeing. Same thing here with the 5 car.
Cameron there has closed the gap a little bit, as has Richard Westbrook, who's sitting in the 3rd spot. So they're showing a little bit more pace in terms of fastest lap of the race so far over the number 5 car that leads. But I think everyone's just being careful. I mean, it's a 6-hour race. You got really tricky conditions. You shouldn't be pushing it that hard this early in the game, but you've got race car drivers behind the wheel. They don't always.
Well, and I think they sat around a lot yesterday, and so it ends up, you have all this pent-up energy, and it seems like you're like, well, they're professionals. They should be able to manage that. But it really, it's amazing. It's almost like a puppy. If you don't take them out and wear them out, they're. And so you get the idea that the guys were kind of jumpy and ready to get going. So I was a little surprised that guys are staying with the slicks. And I think it might be a case of where you get this modern technology. Everybody's got apps on their phone. The radar looks clear, but this is where you got to kind of go with what's coming out of the sky.
I think if it was a sprint race, Tommy, they'd be reacting quicker. I mean, we've got a 6-hour event here. We expect to see a few cautions, hopefully not too many, of course, but you're going to get some resets. So I think they're going to try and run the fuel out and then make a decision closer to when their scheduled stop should be, because we're seeing guys like Brian Sellers running much faster laps in the GTLM class when he made that switch to the wet weather tires.
Here's the battle for the lead in the GT Daytona class. Up ahead, Madison Snow in the number 58 Wright Motorsports Porsche, chased by Mario Farnbacher, a similar machine from Alex Job Racing.
Patrick Lindsay there looking really strong in the number 73 Park Place Racing Porsche. He's up to the 5th spot. Looks like he's got a lot of grip compared to some of the other cars in front of him.
That team already got their first ever victory this year. In case you're wondering, there was a warm-up session this morning, about 30 minutes in basically dry conditions. No rain in the air at that time. So if you're wondering whether these drivers have seen these conditions before today, basically no, going back to what you were saying, Tommy.
Now, this is something you don't see very often. One of the factory GTLM Corvettes holding up the GTD battle, and Madison Snow, who's gotten to the front with those wet weather tires, is now being held up, and he's gotten up next to him and gotten squeezed a little bit, but now you've got 5 cars all over each other.
See there on the straightaways, the GTLM car, the yellow Corvette, pulls away from this pack of GTD cars. Haase looks to the inside for the lead once again in class.
Uno Whitmer right there in the Aston Martin. The 912 coming in, they were given a drive-through for passing under a local yellow flag.
It may have been when Ollie Gavin had his spin, and it was a remarkable recovery drive by Earl Bamber, because remember, he got caught up when Billy Auberlen had his spin on the opening lap, got all the way back up to second in class, and now he's having to serve that penalty.
And look at these guys going at it, and here comes the race leader as well.
Fittipaldi and Cameron are right in the middle of that mess.
Little light touch there with the 73 GTD car.
This is where you just got to be patient. You have to be thinking big picture, not only in terms of this being a 6-hour race, but also the championship when you're leading it right now. Oh, look at that. Cameron looked to the outside. I don't think that PC machine.
Here comes Westbrook. Now he's blocked by the 73.
He was there.
It's almost like choosing lanes on the interstate. You see one line going and you think, and then all of a sudden your line checks up.
Particularly in the wet, because everyone's driving a different line. They're figuring out their way, where are I finding grip, and suddenly a car comes up on you. You're running a different to the normal line around the racetrack, and the guy doesn't appreciate that.
Haase got around Snow, now under pressure from Whitmer. So Snow's gone from first to third in the space of a half a lap.
Yeah, Fittipaldi has cleared a few cars, and Cameron struggling to get through some of these LMPC machines right there. Westbrook putting the heat on. Look at that. You know, these guys just aren't looking in their mirror. They're in their own battle. I think it's the 85 car there. He's just looking ahead of him, not looking in his mirrors, seeing this faster traffic trying to come through.
You're always in your own battle, and you can get surprised by people, but when the conditions are so tough, it's even more so. I mean, it's literally, you are maxed out dealing with trying to keep your car on the black stuff.
Look at that, 2 different classes, but pretty evenly matched here. Down the front straightaway. Some of that may be a downfill setup.
Normally you'd expect the prototype in the hands of Richard Westbrook to motor right on by a prototype challenge open cockpit car, but wasn't happening that time.
Lap times are starting to come down a little bit. Fittipaldi that lap in traffic was in the 57s, but Joey Han, Westbrook ran 51s the lap before, so track is starting to dry out a little bit. You see Joey Han in the background, they're just getting on the back straightaway as these guys go through the bus stop chicane, so he's starting to catch. Been a tough season for the 0-1 Ganassi group. Couple of mechanical DNFs early in the year really hurt them in the points, but they're hanging in there, but just one podium halfway through the championship. You don't see that very often from the Ganassi team.
Boy, they got a big lift 2 weeks ago at Le Mans, where it was formally announced that the Ganassi team will run the new for 2016 Ford GT effort here and abroad in the TUDOR Championship and the World Endurance Championship, with 4 cars arriving at Le Mans in 2016.
It's a huge effort, and it's going to take a lot of resources to put that together. They're already gearing up. Multimatic up in Canada are essentially building, designing. Oh, Westbrook to the inside of Cameron for second. Nice move by Westy.
Looks like a little bit of a dry line forming there on the climb up to turn number 10, or 9, excuse me.
The irony here is that Dane's father engineers the number 90, so he's kind of torn at times, I would think, in terms of who he wants to see bring it home, but I'm sure his heart is maybe with the 31, but his paycheck comes from the 90.
The 31 car coming off first ever win in Detroit. It seems a long time ago now, basically a month ago in the streets of Belle Isle.
Similar conditions to what we're seeing right now at the end of that one, when we had the drizzle come down. Treacherous final 5 minutes there.
Tate Cameron and Eric Curran got the win. More on the 62, Brian.
So difficult out there, guys, because it's not the same racetrack lap to lap to lap. It's drying up a little bit. Pierre Caffer in the 62 Risi Competizione came in his GTLM Ferrari a few minutes ago, and they went to an intermediate tire on that car. So they're trying to take the best of the rain tire and mix it with the best of the dry tire. The 62 right now on intermediates. Jamie?
Well, one good way to tell what's happening out on the racetrack in terms of dry line, wet line is to watch what the teams are preparing on pit road. When we went to the green flag, the 911, they had a set of wet tires out here, but now they have a new set of slicks. The Michelin engineer was just over here adjusting the pressure, so I'm imagining, just like you guys are seeing, that the track is starting to dry out a little bit. In fact, the number 58, Madison Snow, behind the wheel in GTD, they were in the class lead, having gone to the rain tires. They just had to make an unscheduled pit stop to switch back to slicks.
Thanks, Jamie.
That's a good indicator. And to, you know, Brian talked about the intermediate tire going on the Ferrari. All of the classes bar GTLM are tired and shod by Continental tires. They do not have an intermediate tire option, whereas in GTLM, there's a bit more open tire warfare with Falcon Tire involved and Michelin, and they bring different specs to the racetrack to try and fight the battle against another tire company.
97, Turner Motorsports BMW. Looking for a spot in GTD. Michael Marsal attacking John Potter in the 44 Flexbox Porsche 911 in Magnus Racing. Wow, what an opening hour with 5 more to follow here at Watkins Glen International. Stand by for more from the Sahlen 6 Hours of the Glen, powered by Audi. Picture tells the story. The track is drying here at Watkins Glen International as we approach the half-hour mark in the Sahlen 6 Hours of the Glen, powered by Audi. Bob Varsha, Calvin Fish, Tommy Kendall with you up high. Brian Till is downstairs with Jamie Howe. Andrew Marriott will be joining us throughout the day with a special story to tell. Right now you're looking at the top 3 in the race. Christian Fittipaldi, Richard Westbrook, and that man, Dane Cameron. 3 Corvette Daytona prototypes. That 5 car climbing the hill right there has some special interest. They've got sponsorship this weekend from Hazlitt Vineyard Cider Tree brand.
Some good stuff. Had a taste of that the other night.
Yeah. We welcome them to the series.
Taking me back to my boyhood days when I had my first hangover, Bob.
Actually,
a good 6, 7.
A good local story. They've been growing fruit on that farm for about 150 years.
Yeah.
And they switched, so it's 13 varietals of apples and no preservatives. Little champagne yeast, and you've got their cider.
Longtime partner of the racetrack and now on a race car.
Racetrack really drying out now. Christian Fittipaldi's fastest lap at 1:45.7. And the next 3 chasers are in the 44 range with Joey Hand marginally quicker than Cameron and Westbrook.
We are aboard with Patrick PILET, and you can see the timing streak come alive. PILET put in a 52. At that point, he was almost 5 seconds faster than the next car in his class. Now everybody else is running similar times, but incredible job in that 911 by PILET. Just shows you how deep the Porsche bench is. You know, we were raving about Bamber and Tandy and backwards PC car down into the boot, but it just shows. And then, you know, they've got prototypes running all over the world. They got GT cars, and it's just
this is damage there.
Around.
Contact.
Bruno Junqueira. These guys have had a few hits this year.
This shows why these conditions are so tough. The grip level comes up, but there's no margin for error.
We'll see Oz Negri on board with him. See if he makes a move on Bruno if there's a touch. There is.
Yep.
Bruno's actually been pretty aggressive in not wanting to let these prototypes by throughout the course of this opening hour, and just bit him a little bit there.
Full course caution. That car actually started from pit lane and was all the way up in 2nd place in class when Bruno had this issue.
But they had the hit at Detroit, Bob, where he lost control coming through turn 1 and got collected by the 52 car. It was the championship, one of the big championship contenders, of course.
Signaling the trackside crew, I'm okay.
Just takes a little nudge, and then you're along for the ride.
Yeah, like I said, you know, offline, it's really slick. The grip's up online, and then just nudged off. It's one of the reasons he was probably aggressive trying to get down to the inside. He didn't want to. He knew there was no grip on the outside.
You see the hand motions right now of Bruno Junqueira. He's actually communicating with our team. The team is watching the feed that we have. They have lost radio communication in that accident. So Bruno is just giving them a thumbs up, letting him know that he is okay. They're trying to see if he can restart the car, but I'm not sure that's going to happen today.
Well, This team fought hard to get him back in the action at Detroit, and they managed to do it. So Paul Gianellosi and his sons and the whole team are an excellent group, and they'll do everything they can. Remember the big picture of the championship.
And remember also, it is a long race. So we'll take a break under our first full course caution. There's another look at the contact that put Bruno Junqueira into the tire wall here at the Glen. Welcome back. Still under a full course caution here at Watkins Glen International in the Sahlen 6 Hours of the Glen, powered by Audi. Our BMW safety car. There's race leader Christian Fittipaldi for Action Express. Started almost 32 minutes ago. A quick shower scrambled the field. Cars caught out on slick tires. Perhaps an intermediate or a full wet might have been more appropriate. But those are the calls you make in racing. You've got a long way to go. Let's take another look at the incident that brought out the caution flag.
On board here with Oz Negri, and they're coming down into the boot area, and Oz looks to the inside, and then you can see Junqueira just kind of pinches down to the apex, Tommy.
Yeah, I mean, I know Bruno didn't want to let him by there, probably didn't want to go up line, but he probably shouldn't have opened the door as wide as he did. If he would have stayed to the left, Oz would have had to follow him.
We've been seeing him doing similar things. We saw Cameron and Westbrook struggle to get by Bruno a little bit earlier in this race. So I think once you get in that mode, well, I can hold these guys up a little bit. They've got to sit beside me. That then suddenly becomes your pattern of the race.
Well, there's time in it, which is why they're doing it, and it's gotten so competitive. But it's one of those things where, I mean, I think it wasn't conclusive one way or the other, and their history is if it's not conclusive one way or the other, it's going to be a no call for us.
That's right. Race control investigated and decided to take no action.
Two Brazilians can have a nice mojito and discuss it later.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm sure Bruno's hot, but
leader hitting pit lane here. Joey Hand looked like he tucked it as well. Remember, there's going to be some strategy play here as we see Westbrook and Cameron stay out. Remember, at the 3-hour mark today, there are bonus points awarded for that Patrón Cup, so that's certainly playing in here as these teams start to already back time to the 3-hour mark.
Pit lane still pretty wet. Joey Hand is in the Ganassi car. Let's go to Jamie.
Joey will stay behind the wheel of the Sport EcoBoost machine. The team was on the radio with them saying, Joey, what do you think here? Do we need tires? Do we not? And Joey said, we do not need 4 new Continentals. The tires are still great. This will be a quick fuel-only stop for the 01. Brian?
It's exactly what's happening down here at Action Express, the Mustang sampling Corvette. Christian Fittipaldi behind the wheel, fuel only, no tires, and they will head back.
As they come out, Ricky Taylor picked up a spot of Oz Negri in the number 10.
He did. So he leapfrogs around.
A couple of PC cars there.
Westbrook and Cameron cycle to the front with the 5-car pitting, of course.
There's the defending champions in Prototype Challenge.
Prototypes only allowed under this full caution procedure. Pit lane is closed initially, then both Prototype and PC are allowed to pit. Be GTLM and GTD next time around.
So while we await the GT cars, we'll take another break and return for more live action here on Fox Sports 1. The Sahlen 6 Hours of the Glen, powered by Audi. Stay with us. Back live at Watkins Glen. There you see the car that came in as the leader in the GT Daytona class. GT cars making their pit stops now. A long stop. There was a driver change on the 48. Brian Till.
And down in Corvette camp, both the 3 and the 4, fuel only, and that's what the majority of the teams have done. BMW right behind did the same thing, so at least on this part of pit lane, just fuel in GTLM. Jamie?
Well, GTLM on this end was also just fuel only. Both the 911 and the 912 came in. I was listening to some radio that I thought was a little bit funny. The team asked Patrick PILET, Patrick, do you need a fresh water bottle? Have you drank your water yet? And he said, nope, I am all good. So he's enjoying the race out there right now, guys.
I think another factor in terms of keeping the tires on, you're not putting a full fuel load in the car at this stage of the game, so you're going to waste time on pit lane by changing tires. That tire change would be a little bit longer than the amount of fuel you need.
Now back to the weather. There's Richard Westbrook. A moment ago, he had this conversation with his pit. Sorry, technical glitch there. It was actually quite a bit louder. But basically, he was asked about tires. And he said it looks like it's starting to rain harder again.
Yeah, and his engineer came back on and said, just stay out there, and we're playing the weather, not fuel right now, so in terms of the strategy. But I tell you what, the Action Express group, they split strategies. They obviously kept the 31 car out there, pitted the 5, and the 5 car are leading the Patrón Cup standings, and I know Ian Watt has been on top of that from the very get-go in terms of when you get those bonus points. And with Scott Dixon not competing here this weekend, their drivers have like a 6-point lead in the standings right now, so it's a big margin.
Watch what PILET's doing in car here. Once the car takes a set, he's just adding a whole bunch of steering, trying to grind those front tires to just get some heat in there, using the brakes as well. This might be why he got such a great start initially. Just a little bit extra temp, and it's almost like a light switch. They're treacherous, 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 and then they finally generate some grip.
There's our Porsche news and notes. Of course, first and second overall of the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Their record extending 17th overall victory, but the first since 1998. Of course, Patrick Dempsey, Patrick Long, and Marco Seifrig. A battle with the All-American team of Townsend Bell, Bill Sweedler, and Jeff Siegel for what we thought was going to be the third and final step on the podium. But when the leader in the GTE-AM class suffered a mechanical issue, suddenly both of those American squads were on the podium in GTE-AM, which was terrific. And of course, Corvette picked up its 8th win in 16 tries at Le Mans. That's a batting average that's hard to beat.
Oh, I see that. Looks like Connor Daly heading for the pit lane from 3rd overall.
Green flag, green flag.
Cameron looks to the inside on Westbrook. Will Westbrook defend it vigorously? Gives him a lane there. It's pretty tight in these conditions because you may think you can hold it there and suddenly the car starts to slide a little bit. So
remember last year when Richard Westbrook was an absolute demon on the brakes as he came through to win for that VisitFlorida.com team.
That restart that he put on Alex Brundle to take the lead in this very spot of the racetrack was just sensational. You give Westy a sniff of a win and he goes for it.
A little bit
Nigel Mansell in that way, just a bulldog.
I think a little bit of him leaving room was he knew it was wet where Cameron was trying to get it stopped, thinking, okay, even though I probably could turn in because I'm in front, if he can't get it stopped, I'm going to be the one that loses there.
But look at the strategy play here. The 2 guys leading did not pit for fuel. These guys did, and they're within a couple of seconds and full of fuel. So I don't quite understand keeping those guys out, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and in terms of playing the rain, they're on the same tires.
Same tire?
So, yeah. So they've just got a lot more flexibility here.
Absolutely.
From race control, the number 22 WeatherTech Porsche for Alex Job Racing. Too fast in the pit lane and coming back for a drive-through.
Certainly the Alex Job Racing team have been on a roll, 2 victories, but with the 23 machine, not the 22. So certainly shown a lot of speed with that Porsche this year.
I mentioned Connor Daly heading for the pit lane. Connor Daly had taken that car straight to the front, just crushing the PC field in the wet. Every time he's been in the car, he's been really quick. I've called Connor young Skywalker for a long time. I might have to change that. He's turned into a full-on Jedi. And the thing about Connor is I think things went pretty easy for him early in his career, but now I sense a real hunger there, and he's like, he's a little bit ticked off, and it shows when he gets in the car.
Well, he had a couple of lean years there, and suddenly the rides just weren't coming quite as easy, but he's certainly a great talent, and he certainly proved that on the streets of Detroit in very tricky conditions when he led the IndyCar race just a few weeks ago. Look at Cameron now. He's in Westy's draft looking for the lead.
He's going to turn around the outside.
Westy went back over on the line. That is
real
careful.
borderline.
Yeah.
You know, when you commit to the inside, you can defend as long as you get there first, but to commit and then fade and squeeze.
I don't think he realized that Dane had actually got right alongside in there. Otherwise, I don't think he'd have made that move. But again, when you're racing this close and this hard in these sort of conditions, it can go wrong in a heartbeat.
And Bo Barfield has shown he's going to let the guys race a little bit more. So I think as long as you leave a little bit of a lane, even if it's close, they're going to probably let you slide on that.
85 prototype challenge car goes around. Mikhail Goikberg third place in class at the time.
Actually had a spin on the reconnaissance lap before we even saw the green today, so that just proves he's a very talented driver coming up through the Indy Lights ranks and put in some great runs this year, but those are the conditions can catch anyone out.
In fact, he's the reigning champion in the IMSA Prototype Lights division. So 7 prototype cars, then 3 PCs, and then this battle in GT Le Mans. On board the 24 with John Edwards. Now German Christopher Haase climbed out of a number 48 Audi. There or thereabouts on the lead in GT Daytona. Let's hear from him.
Christopher Haase and Dion van Molke lead the GTD Championship, and Christopher, probably some of the most difficult conditions I would imagine you could face out there earlier with a wet track but drying conditions. How tough was it from the wheel of that Audi?
It was really tough. The line was just wet and we had all slicks on, which was really difficult to handle because the car you lose its always snap on power, and all the fast stuff up the hill, turn 2, it was amazing. I couldn't believe that actually we could survive. Yeah, you see the water, and suddenly it started quite quickly to dry up on the dry line, and from that moment on the tire pressure came up, the temperature started to build up, and actually then the race started early.
So Bryce Miller has a much better track condition to deal with than you did.
Well, it's still difficult, believe me.
Still difficult out there for sure. They're trying to find a win here at the 6 hour, Jamie.
With the number 38, they started towards the back of the PC grid. Connor Daly, you quickly got to the lead, but then pitted when we went back to green. Why not pit under yellow?
Well, I was told, I don't really know, but I was told it was just to keep the 2 cars that we lapped a lap down. And also, I mean, now that I think about it, it gives Jerry a bit of free track to kind of work with, because it's still a little bit, sketchy conditions. But, again, it's a shame to get the yellow where we did, but it was still a fun stint out there.
Now, I know that to get in this car this weekend, you actually made the call to Brent O'Neill to get behind the wheel. What is it about racing in the TUDOR Championship that's so exciting?
Well, I mean, it's a great team to work with, and I really like Brent. And what's really nice is that he believes in the driving. He wants to see a driver, and a lot of teams, and I've seen it in IndyCar as well. It's just not a lot of people are kind of believing in the young talent, and it's cool to see Brent believe in me, and I'm just trying to give him the best I can do and just drive every lap at the absolute maximum, and it's a lot of fun too. I mean, this track is amazing. I can't believe I've never raced here in my life, so really enjoying it, and just can't thank these guys enough, and hopefully we can finally get a win together.
I think you have a lot of believers. Nice opening stint.
Thanks.
Connor Daly's father, Derek. Whoa, we got a spin.
Speaking of.
Might have been the result of contact once again.
Definitely was.
Yeah,
the 2 leaders were coming up on him.
Here, yeah.
He got startled, I think.
Yeah.
See damage to the left rear rim on Dane Cameron's machine.
He's got a ways to go. 4 corners before
Carrying
he
a lot of
hits the
speed
pit.
here. He needs to.
Steady, mate, steady. We need to save the body.
Yeah,
Save the
Doing
body.
good at the minute.
Save the body, the diffuser, the suspension.
6 hour race. I mean, it's a long lap here, so if there's no damage, they can get that wheel changed and probably keep him on the lead lap, which is critical, of course.
Another look. Cameron involved in that battle with the 90.
Yeah. He saw the 90 and then tried to get back over on line immediately.
Yeah.
Didn't realize that Dane was tucked right up behind Westbrook.
Goes back to what you were saying, Tommy. I mean, these guys are professionals, and normally professionals can predict what other professionals are going to do. But in these conditions, it's got to be a little bit hard to tell what a guy's going to do, looking for grip.
Wow, this is a really bad break for Dane Cameron. They just went full caution here, which the pit lane will be closed. He's allowed to pit for emergency service, but he's going to have to do a subsequent pit stop. They've waited just a few seconds to let him get to the pit entry, but I don't think they did. He's got no option but to come in, but this is going to be what they call an emergency stop, which really hurts him because otherwise he could have topped up refuel. Remember, they didn't do that first pit stop.
Yep.
They could have got him in here, new tire, filled him up with fuel, kept him on the lead lap. Strategy-wise, he'd have been okay. Right now, they're not allowed to put fuel in unless he's out of fuel, which would just be a 5-gallon top-up. And so this just went awry for the 31.
What are you doing up here with us? You should be down there in the pit lane calling strategy for some of these guys. Brian.
31 is in. You can see the left rear wheel absolutely destroyed. The rest of it just seems to be a little body work. Pull that back out, and hey, it's in line. Hopefully no suspension damage after that hit. Dane Cameron back underway.
Yeah, they're allowed to fix the bodywork. It's called emergency service, so it's going to cut the tire down again. Obviously a cut down tire, but there's pretty severe limitations on what you can actually do.
While the 38 remains in the tire wall. Jerome Mee. Shaken just a little bit, but otherwise, Hale and Hardy, good-sized driver, as you can see. These cockpits are very, very tight. Another break under caution at the Glen.
The fans out there, racing needs speed and performance. To Corvette Racing, not only speed and performance, but safety is our #1 issue. And we start with a production-based chassis from our production plant in Bowling Green, Kentucky. This is the chassis that's in each production car. It's designed with specific crush zones so that when the car has any sort of impact, that chassis absorbs the energy rather than transferring it to the driver. And then we move to the driver compartment. Right-hand side safety net. Side impact helps driver to be contained in the safety module. The seat, designed and shaped to each specific driver's torso. The driver's side safety net, designed again for side impact to keep the driver's head, shoulders, and body inside the safety zone. And it's all culminated with our unique to Corvette safety crash box. This is a collapsible honeycomb material encased in carbon fiber and Kevlar. Not only does it absorb the energy, but it makes the unit bulletproof so that anything penetrating like a guardrail or a component from another race car, virtually impossible to get into the driver's torso. You put all these things together and it creates what we think in Corvette the safest GT car in racing. All those things put together is what allowed Jan Magnussen to walk away from that horrific crash this year at the 24 Hours of Le Mans. At GM and Corvette Racing, safety is always #1.
Nobody better than Jan Magnussen knows how stout those Corvettes are. In addition to that big crash at Le Mans this year, he had a big one at Virginia International Raceway last year. At Le Mans, they celebrated their 16th visit with the entire team on hand. This was a photo taken here at Watkins Glen with both cars, each with a story to tell. What a weekend at Le Mans. You crash a car, we're down to 50% of our effort, and of course they came through and won for the 8th time in 16 attempts for Corvette. A 500 batting average at Le Mans? You gotta be kidding. We'll take a break and return under cloudy skies at Watkins Glen. Watkins Glen International. The Sahlen 6 hours, powered by Audi. Under cloudy skies with rain in the air, it's been a mad scramble, and we're not even yet at the 1 hour mark. Let's get you up to speed on what's been going down here at the Glen. Contact between the number 60 prototype of Oz Negri and Bruno Junqueira, his Brazilian countryman, in one of the prototype challenge cars, resulted in a heavy impact of the tire wall. And then later on, a similar incident. Dane Cameron and the Wayland Team Fox prototype Corvette EP colliding with Jerome Mee in another of the PC cars. And another heavy impact, another full course caution.
Tricky area of the racetrack. As you can see, we're still under caution. Safety car lights are out. Go back to green flag action. Richard Westbrook has not made a pit stop yet today. He continues to lead in the visitflorida.com prototype machine. There you see the Englishman behind the wheel trying to get some tire temperature generated in these Continental tires, Tommy.
Let's listen to a conversation with his crew.
Hot, the tires as hot as we can, keep everything hot, and we'll do that pit under green. Go on a good restart with hot tires.
You called it that it was a split strategy, but it was not the right one. And so now another yellow right away was even worse for them.
Right.
Now they're almost at the end of their fuel window.
Yeah. Going to go a little over 40 minutes maybe. We're 57 minutes into this race. They've had a lot of caution laps, which will extend fuel mileage, but he's got to be close.
Westbrook gets pretty fired up on the radio, so I think some of that was just a diplomatic way of calming him down.
Green, green, green.
So Westbrook leads Christian Fittipaldi in a similar Corvette Daytona prototype.
Oh, big wiggle by Joey there under braking. Kept it together, but you can see they nearly lost it under braking for turn 1.
It's the EcoBoost Ford Riley.
Again, they don't have the tire tempo, the pressure's back up yet, so got to tread carefully here for a lap or two, Tommy, in these conditions.
Ricky Taylor now pressing Joey Hand in the number 10 Konica Minolta car for Wayne Taylor Racing.
It is really a combination of temperature and pressure because they work in concert. The tire being part of the suspension, ride height, all those is affected by the spring rate of the tire.
We saw Joey at the beginning of this race struggled a little bit for pace, but then suddenly the car got into its sweet spot and he's running the fastest laps of the race. He closed down on the leaders, but certainly here, initially at least, he didn't have the tire temp. Watch this. Third car in line.
That was that dark asphalt that I was talking about on the prior restart that Dane Cameron was taking a look inside of Westbrook on.
If that's dramatic from the outside, that's arms and elbows inside the cockpit, trust me.
Saw Taylor and Osnegri right there, ready to pounce.
Yeah, didn't quite get the car stopped there or turned.
He's struggling for grip there a little bit. Couldn't get the car down to the apex.
These are the best track conditions we've seen. You know, that 60 car is starting to come alive, and he's within. You know, he has fuel as well.
Yeah, the P2 configured machine, as you see there, the Mike Shank Racing Ligier HPD. P2s were really quick here last year, driving up against what are known as the Daytona prototypes that currently lead, sitting 1, 2, 3, 4. And this year, Shank has got this new car. They've been testing here, coming in. You see,
hand off and on again.
He is. Ricky Taylor cuts it to the inside.
Clear, clear.
Okay, long race. If you're struggling for grip, don't throw it all away at this stage. Maybe he just needs to let these guys by, let the car come back to it a little bit, and then go on the attack.
Getting heat and pressure into these tires is going to be a little bit easier. As I look out the window from our announce position, there is sunshine across the valley of the Glen. We haven't seen that for about 48 hours here in upstate New York, but we may see sunshine. Look for the shadows around the race cars. Pit action, Brian.
31 is in. Now they can do their full stop, so it'll be 4 Continental tires and fuel. You see the crewmen kind of moving, putting their hands on those tires, moving them back and forth. They didn't change the left rear because they changed that with emergency service. What they're trying to do, they grab that tire and wheel and see if there's anything loose. Was anything knocked out of alignment? Was anything broken in that contact? So they make a good check, make sure that everything's there, get those new tires on it, and Dane Cameron back on track.
Yeah, with that contact with the 38 machine, Dane had to take up what's known as emergency service because pit lane was closed. He's allowed to come in, change that tire, but he has to make a subsequent pit stop that he just did. But you are then allowed to do full service. Top them up with fuel, change the other tires if you choose to, and certainly the mechanic's going to check out very carefully.
But now, do you also have to make a dedicated drive-through for entering a closed pit?
I don't believe so. After the emergency stop, if you come in and do the regular service under green, you're going to be okay.
So the drive-through can be paired with full service?
Yes.
Right. Okay. We are just past 1 hour into this 6-hour event.
PILET, what a run he's had here today. Took it to the front early, stretched that margin. Currently leading John Edwards sitting second in the number 24 BMW. Magnussen in the 3 car has recovered nicely. He sits there in third. Noel Bamber, he had to serve a penalty for passing under yellow. Ollie Gavin had a spin earlier in this race, back up to the 4th spot. So Porsche's looking strong here in these conditions.
That pass under yellow was something that was highlighted at the drivers' meeting based on some of the stuff that went down in Detroit. Bo Barfield wanted to get everybody's attention. He noticed kind of a creep taking place. He said, if we see a clear-cut pass under yellow, we're not going to just let you put it back. We really want to discourage it, so we're gonna issue drive-through penalties.
Bo Barfield is the race director for IMSA. This is the battle for the GT Le Mans class. Patrick PILET in the white Porsche 911 leading John Edwards in the BMW, and then the first of the Corvettes, Jan Magnussen in the 3 car.
The 4 cars actually gone down a lap to GTLM leader, so it's going to be a long haul for Ollie Gavin and Tommy Milner coming off the high of the win at Le Mans to get back in the game here today.
This car built in the same Pratt & Miller shops as the other cars, but it was sold to the Larbre competition team, the French team that runs it on the European Le Mans series. But after Magnussen's big crash at Le Mans, they decided to ask for that chassis back this weekend while they work on the damaged 3 car. Hopefully they'll have it back, but perhaps not before the next round at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park.
Great battle here for the GTD lead. We're looking at Madison Snow in the Brumos colors. That Porsche leads right now, and it's Kuno Whitmer. Great to see him back in action. Our GTLM class champion from last year in the TUDOR Championship. In a one-off drive here for Kevin Buckler and the TRG group. They're having a great season. Christina Nielsen sits second in points, who'll co-drive that car here today.
It'll be interesting to see how the pairing, one of the things that Kuno, how he kept his career alive, was kind of one of the premier driver coaches amongst the Viper privateers as he looks in, makes the pass on Snow.
New leader in GT Daytona.
Ooh, a little hip check off the road there from the 62.
Oh, we got damage. Jamie.
Yeah, the 912 just entered pit lane. Bob, heavy damage on the front end of this car. They are doing a driver change. Earl Bamber is out. York Bergmeister now taking over duties. The team has a new nose already out and ready, so they're just going to remove the old one, put on some fresh body work, 4 new Michelin tires, and they'll send him.
Real key with those Porsches is the radiator doesn't get damaged in a hit like that. That's Earl Bamber jumping out, coming off that big high we talked about with a massive win in prototype on debut at Le Mans. What a story. Just a year ago, he won an award to get a Carrera Cup program. He won in 2014, has been promoted through the Porsche ranks on the fast train, Tommy.
I was wondering if that was damage from that first lap or incident with the BMW, but I think he might have gotten into something else.
Bamber's had a meteoric career as a Porsche factory driver, but he is aggressive. Prototype challenge leader.
Daniel Burkett, debut here with this team. What a drive he's putting in right now. Some of that is pit strategy. Of course, we saw Connor Daly pit from the lead and basically promoted a few of these guys up, but Daniel's having a great run here, looking really comfortable there in the 16 car from BR1.
Climbing the hill through the fast and treacherous S's. That series of corners a lot more dramatic than it looks on television. And it's climbing. You hear us talk about rolling natural terrain racetracks. This is the paradigm.
This is for the lead in GTLM. Patrick PILET defends the inside line from John Edwards, looking for his second consecutive victory with he and Lucas Lur here. They try and get back into the hunt for this GTLM championship. They really thought this BMW would be strong here. They've had some adjustments of performances over the last 12 months. The car sat on the pole here last year, but seemed to struggle in race conditions in terms of raceability, the straight line speed of the Z4, but the adjustments seem to be working. Very racy today.
It's interesting to see, this Rahal Letterman team not going to Le Mans like the Corvette team has really had a nice break to really get on top of stuff, maybe do some testing. Everyone wants to go to Le Mans, but there's some upside for them that come in here fully prepared, not short on sleep like the Vette guys.
Big weekend for RLL. Graham Rahal, of course, Bobby's son, taking victory in Fontana yesterday, so they'd love to get another one.
John Edwards took a look around the outside. Let's hear from Earl Bamber with Jamie.
Well, Earl, we saw the heavy damage on the front end of the car, but we didn't see what happened. What did happen?
It's from the contact on the first lap with the BMW. Unfortunately, he just lost it. Turn 6, and then we had nowhere to go, so it just touched him, and then eventually, as the race going on, it's just broken. So it's unfortunate. I don't know where we are now if we lost a lap, but the car's really, really good. We managed to come back through the field, so I think if we can get, if we're not a lap down, then we'll be okay.
Last couple of weeks, you're now Earl Bamber Le Mans winner. What's that been like?
Yeah, it's been good, but now it's back to work and back to reality. So that first stint wasn't too good. And let's hopefully we get going better this afternoon.
Bit of racing laps, Brian.
The 90 just in, Richard Westbrook stayed in the car, 4 new Continental tires and fuel, but they're big donuts down the left side of the 90, just showing how hard these guys racing early on here at Watkins Glen, especially with those treacherous conditions at the drop of the green.
Old Bamber reminds me of my golf game. I can have the drive of my life, and if I hit one in the water on the next hole, I'm really angry.
I was just thinking the same thing.
Except you've never won the Masters.
That's that racing approach. Nice drive, kid. You won overall at Le Mans. Now this is another weekend. What have you got? We'll take a break and return to Watkins Glen.
They've all worked together as a team, and for 2015, it's the 17th victory at the Circuit de la Sarthe. Porsche win at Le Mans.
Next month, baseball's best gather in Cincinnati for the Midsummer Classic with home field advantage at the World Series on the line. Our coverage of the 2015 MLB All-Star Game begins July 14th at 7 p.m. Eastern on your local Fox station and streaming live on Fox Sports Go.
If you got any questions on baseball, Bob, just ask me.
Okay, yeah, I know you've been studying.
Up on that.
Yep. On board with Ricky Taylor in the family hot rod.
And he is really reeled Christian Fittipaldi back in.
Kind of a quiet race at Detroit. The guys have been on a tear there for a while. Quiet race on the streets of Detroit. Didn't really get the handle right on the right car. Here's a battle that's resumed from Detroit. Joey Hand and Oz Negri had a little bit of discussion and argument on the racetrack there.
Riley versus Ligier Chassis. Ford versus Honda Power.
These two cars are running the fastest laps of the race at 140 flat, which is not far adrift from Oz Negri's fastest laps of the weekend in the 138 range. So they're quicker than the leaders right now. And we saw Joey struggle to get the grip in the 0-1 immediately on that restart, but it's now found its sweet spot again. I don't think that Riley has the same downforce that the Corvettes does, so I think that could be a contributing factor there, Tommy.
Certainly what it looks like. But once he's got going here, it's actually interesting because the difference, that used to be the knock against the P2 cars, took them a lot longer to get going. So you've got two different approaches within prototype. Turbo power, a little bit quicker down the straightaway.
See there, the leader's just up ahead of these guys, so it's going to close up to a 4-car battle here pretty quickly, I think.
Taylor's brother Jordan, Le Mans winner in a GT car, standing by, ready to take over. Brian.
And Jordan Taylor down here. First of all, the race, when it started, watch the 10 car go the wrong direction. Everything okay? It seems to be moving to the front now.
Yeah, I mean, it's 6 hours, so Ricky let everyone else take the risk at the beginning and, took it easy to get up to speed. But now he's the quickest car on track, so I think in these conditions in the dry, at least we're quick. I think when it is in the intermittent stuff, we'll be strong as well now that we know that the car's competitive. So far so good.
So far so good, and you guys certainly know about being patient, you especially. Still celebrating Le Mans, or is that going to continue until next year in June?
Yeah, it's nice to have the win, but I mean, we're at Watkins Glen now, so that really doesn't mean anything on the track right now. So we're going to try to win this one and celebrate this one as well.
So you're not thinking about that big trophy or standing up there and looking out at all those people at the end?
Yeah, I mean, it was an amazing experience. I mean, it's something that you'll never forget, and once you experience it once, it makes you want it that much more another time.
Just amazes me the level of maturity. Yeah, all right, been there, done that, won that one. Now I need to focus on this one. Off we go.
Well, if you know anything about Jordan Taylor, you know he is the master of social media with all sorts of selfies posted. And they're usually very, very entertaining. But this is one that will probably mean something to him for a long time, having that trophy on the seat next to him on the long trip home.
His little buddy, he was FaceTiming with his dog back home. Does he have any human friends? I get such a kick out of his Periscope, which is the new social media. He posted yesterday him trying to steal the Le Mans winning flag from the Corvette guys. And he's like, hey, I want it too. Yeah. And they caught him.
He had a wonderful selfie from the podium. Of course, all of the fans crowd the pit lane underneath the podium, and he took a selfie looking back on these tens of thousands of people crowding the pit lane on the racetrack. Just great stuff.
As Brian said, total maturity. I mean, race car drivers tend to have short-term memory anyway, which in some cases is a good thing, but he's the total package. He does all the social media stuff. He can be goofy at times, but he was the fastest car in that winning Corvette at Le Mans, so he was quicker than Ollie Gavin. He was quicker than Tommy Milne. I'm not saying the other guys couldn't have done the time, but he played a big part in that win there a couple of weeks ago.
Well, it's something I've seen. We're back to it. We'll talk to it next time we're on that 10 car. We're seeing this battle still hot and heavy. There was some water in the heel of the boot. I think someone must have dropped a wheel over the outside of the curb, and so that's the point. Is the conditions, even though it's pretty much dry everywhere, every time you come around, if someone comes off track, drags it back on, you can have a wet spot that you didn't know about. So it's really, draining. It's a little cooler, so physically it's easier on the guys, but mentally using a lot more energy than normal.
French veteran Patrick Pilet leading young American racing lion John Edwards. Porsche versus BMW.
Look at the rear wing on that BMW up there through the S's. A lot of vibration there. John Edwards, a little bit of a break. He's been a busy boy first half of the season. Did some VLN races in preparation for the 24 hours of the Nürburgring, where he finished 6th with a privateer team. Westbrook and company finished 2nd on that day, just missing out on the victory to the Audi cam, but there he looks to the inside.
I like what he's doing because it's a 6-hour race, so he can't make any crazy chances, but it's like he's saying, you know what, I'm not going to make a dive bomb, but I'm going to be really close and really put the heat on. So he's doing it with intensity, but also with a little bit of reserve.
I like the chemistry that he and Lucas Luhr, his teammate for this year, have developed early. I mean, sometimes you're changing the guard a little bit, doesn't always come together. It's so important within a camp. Those guys seem to be working well together.
Battle for third place in the overall on the left of your screen, on board with Oz Negri, looking either side of Joey Hand.
Great battles here. This is awesome stuff here. It's an hour and 16 minutes into the 6-hour event, but people looking for change of position, looking for the lead here in GTLM as John Edwards get back to that prototype battle. Joey Hand was very frustrated after the event. He spoke to Bill Barfield, the race director. He said, what you tell us we cannot do, Oz Negri was doing to me. He was reacting to a move with me trying to get around him on the final laps there at Detroit, and Bo looked at it carefully. He considered it, but there were no penalties given to Oz Negri. He said, well, Joey got a little bit aggressive with him a little bit later in the lap, so I felt it was an even play all the way around, but certainly that's the hardcore racing you expect at this level.
Prototype battle on the left, GT Le Mans on the right. Here's a prototype challenge update. The 38 that crashed when Jerome Mee got together with Dane Cameron's prototype is now back on track.
That's really hurt Dane Cameron because he is immersed in the middle of the overall field right now. He had one of the fastest cars on the racetrack. He's down in 7th position in class, but his lap times are nowhere near what the leaders are turning, and that just has to be traffic right now.
Edwards is just relentless. I thought it was going to yield a mistake. There was a slight mistake coming back where the boot rejoins the short course, and the Porsche stepped out, but he was able to gather it back up. And so I think if he can keep this heat on, look at it. Oh, and just like I was saying, choosing the lanes.
Oh, that is tight.
Really dicey.
Woo. Awesome. What is Pilet going to do here as we get down to the break zone?
I suspect you're going to see the 24 start to walk away here.
And we've always talked about the handling abilities of this BMW Z4. Didn't have the straightaway speed. They made some slight aero adjustments. They also made some slight engine performance. Oh, spin there in the background. You can see it.
That's the 38.
That's the car that's just rejoined. That's his 2nd spin on this outlap as he tries to rejoin competition.
He's cycling through the electronics. Here comes, let's replay the first spin.
Oh boy, that's not a great spot to do it.
38 made it through the boot, back up to.
Something wrong with the suspension. The rear end keeps stepping out really bad.
It's reporting that big hit that the car took. Something's wrong with the race car.
Jerome Mee back in the car again. It's between turns 9 and 10. It does look, there's a little dampness there.
It's something with the suspension. They're different-handed corners where he had the problem, but he may just not have the rear grip he's looking for, obviously.
Let's get it back here. We'll take it back to the truck, please. Back to the truck.
Is that the definition of ambidextrous? You spin in a left-hander and in a right-hander? Making light of a tough day at the racetrack for those guys. I believe they can get back out there.
Something I talked about at Le Mans, like when the Audi had that big smash, when you put it back together quickly, what have you missed? And so it's amazing. Oh, look at this.
This is Dane Cameron, I believe, who's down a lap now because of that hit with the 38 car and then the emergency service and then having to serve another pit stop, off strategy a little bit. So he's fighting hard here to stay in the game. He's got 2 cars, the 5 and the 10 already around him. Oh no, it's actually the 10 there, sorry.
And it's
5 cars got around him.
Borderline not cool though, because of team play. He's already lost the lead lap, but he's making it a lot more difficult on the 10 than it looks that he did on the 5.
That's the point I was trying to make. The 31 is the 5 sister car.
Yeah, but also to his argument, he's going to say, I want to try and get back on that lead lap. So he said, I can't just allow this pack of prototypes by. I'm just going to sit behind them. He's got a fast race car. He's now down at the 41 range, so it seems like the speed is still there despite the hit.
Catch up with GT Daytona again. There's Kuno Whitmer on the point. Behind him, Mario Farnbacher in that 23 car that scored a couple of victories. Only car in GT Daytona with more than 1 win this year.
TRG have had so much success here. Back in 2005, they had a 1-2 overall in the prototype ranks and a couple of GT wins along the way. Continental Tire Sports Car Challenge, they've done it all here. So Kevin Buckler and his group certainly seem to have the key to success here. And I tell you what, this is a great performance for Kuno. It's all about keeping your name in the spotlight. And every time he's had a ride this year, he's performed.
It is, and it's, we're going to go down to Brian Till for more.
Calvin, I just spoke with Kevin Buckler about the setup on the 07, considering the fact that the skies have lightened a little bit and the track is dry, and he said, we're somewhat intermediate, but more set up for the rain. We think there's more coming in at the end of the day, and we think we'll be ready for it if it gets wet again, and that's that same strategy that has won him all those races that you talked about here.
That's what I was going to say, is Kevin Buckler almost guaranteed a victory if it was wet. He says, we have prepared heavily for a wet race, and he says, I expect to dominate if it's wet.
There's a look at the glittering competitive record of the TRG AMR team. Not always in Aston Martins. We're also, Kevin made his legend with Porsche. He also ran Pontiac-powered Daytona prototypes and more. We'll take a break and return with more from Watkins Glen. Back live at Watkins Glen, on board the number 24 BMW in the GT Le Mans class. John Edwards on the lead. Standing by, team owner with the 3rd member of our pit road team, Andrew Marriott.
Yeah, thanks very much. Well, Bobby, first we have to say congratulations to Graham on a great win yesterday. You must be celebrating a bit, but nevertheless, you've got to concentrate on this.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. That was an unbelievable race. Wish I could have been there, frankly, but it's going well here so far. So we just got to keep focused here. So far, 1st and 3rd, so we just got to keep it going.
John doing very well in these terribly tricky conditions.
Yeah, it was pretty slippery in the beginning. We spun. Luckily, that full course caution got us back up with the group. And the pace is very good right now. It's just, we're about 15 seconds behind the leaders, so we got some work to do yet.
Yeah, Bobby, I was last here at the 1980 US Grand Prix 35 years ago. I think you might have been here as well, were you?
Actually, it was I was in the 78 Grand Prix, even longer ago. And that was a thrill to finally get to Formula One and be in your home Grand Prix.
Well, you've got a lot of concentrating to do, long way to go yet. Let's see what BMW can do against Porsche.
All right, thank you, Andrew, and welcome back to Watkins Glen International, by the way. Andrew was last here in 1980, covering the last U.S. Formula One Grand Prix that took place here. Well, here is the only Mazda prototype in the field, the 07, in the hands of Tom Long. Looks like he's having an issue running the Sky Active diesel. While the other team car is used to explore options for that team going forward. 2017, there'll be new prototype rules coming down the line.
We spoke to the Mazda.
Gap to the 5 here. 5 over your shoulder. All clear.
We spoke to the Mazda group this week, and the commitment is here for a 5-year program in this class. So
Go just past the brake, and they're going to service it there.
With the new regulations about to be announced for 2017, they're trying to make some decisions in terms of the future and what power plant to be running. So exciting times ahead, I think, for the Mazda group in general.
They are beautiful cars. Third full course caution as the crews go out to retrieve Tom Long. Time for a Mazda mid-race report. For that, here's Jamie Howe.
Well, John Doonan watching on. We know the 07's about to come in with Tom Long behind the wheel, but only having one car out here this weekend, how does that affect the strategy of this program?
Well, Jamie, everything Mazda does at the racetrack's about improving our current and future road car product. We've done that with the SkyActiv diesel program. Because we know what the 2017 regulations are starting to look like, we're working on some things behind the scenes. We thought we might be able to bring it here this weekend. We're going to do some additional testing, and in the coming races, you're going to see Mazda's running up front, and we're going to continue the development on the diesel program.
We need to get out of the way before he makes it to pit lane, but it is exciting to see that you guys are looking forward and not backward. Thanks, John.
Thanks.
I mean, tremendous what they've done with that diesel power plant. They say when you look at what the Audi has with the LMP1 machine at Le Mans, they're actually developing more power per cubic inch of the motor with this engine than they are with the Audi.
Which is truly a production-based engine.
Yeah.
Not just production
Cool
sort
stuff.
of layout. And so, I mean, the engineering challenges they faced, and they were explaining to me, I only get a little bit of, you could do a 2-hour documentary on in terms of what they've learned. And a lot of credit to Sylvain Tremblay and the Speed Source team for taking that on, doing a lot of that themselves. It's not being done by the factory.
We saw the 01 Ganassi Ford EcoBoost Riley. It's now in the hands of Scott Pruitt. They managed to get a pit stop and driver change done just before the yellow flag came out.
That's potentially huge.
Jamie.
That's right. You guys can probably see it up in the booth, maybe to be able to show the fans with the telestrator, but there is a pit commit point of the racetrack, and just before the pit lane closed, the number 01 was already at that pit commit point, so they were allowed to go ahead and come in. They did do full service, so Joey Hand is out. Scott Pruitt now behind the wheel with a full fuel tank and 4 new Continental tires.
Could be a huge move.
And I'm guessing that's not an accident. When they saw that happening, this might bring out a yellow, bang, you hit the pit lane.
Got to be on your toes all of the time.
90 minutes into the race on the button. 4.5 hours to go. We're just getting started here at the Sahlen 6 Hours of the Glen, powered by Audi. Stay with us. Back live at Watkins Glen. First pass around complete. Pits are open for prototype cars.
Showing what a game of inches this is. You see the 31 getting its lap back, so the battling as hard as he did paid off. And then also just whether it was Joey Hand making a split-second decision or the team being more on the ball, Joey Hand is going to be the leader, and the 31, or now Scott Pruitt behind the wheel, and then the 31 will be at the tail end of the lead lap.
To the 60 car for Michael Shank Racing, Jamie.
Oz Negri hit his marks. They're going to take 4 new Continental tires. They're doing a driver change, so John Pugh now getting behind the wheel for the first time in this race. I was listening in on the radio, and Oz was telling the team every single lap the car just feels better and better. It's really coming to life. Andrew?
Yeah, I'm just here at the Taylor pit stop. Takes them out. Switch brothers, and out it roars right past my feet. And quick pit stop by the Taylors.
It was not a quick pit stop for Michael Shank Racing. The driver change took a little bit longer than the fuel in the tires, and the crew member also had to get into the ventilation and try and pull some debris out of there, so a little bit of extra time.
And you saw the Taylor machine, the number 10 Konica Minolta car, come out ahead of the number 5 for Action Express. So the Taylor crew picked up a spot and get ready to go back to green here. The Sahlen 6 Hours of the Glen, powered by Audi. Welcome back to Watkins Glen International, the Sahlen 6 Hours of the Glen, powered by Audi. Here on Fox Sports, I'm Bob Varsha with Calvin Fish and Tommy Kendall. Jamie Howe down in the pit lane, joined by Andrew Marriott. Let's get you up to speed. We are under a full course caution for the third time in the race. This is the reason, as Tom Long apparently lost power in that Mazda Skyactiv diesel turbo prototype.
Reports it may be an alternator belt that's gone missing, and a little bit of argy-bargy here coming off pit lane between the 63 Scuderia Corsa and the Turner Motorsports Z4.
Another look. We're okay. Past pit out.
Sure they touched it.
Yeah, actually, I was waiting for the ball, but it never happened. Here's a look at the leaderboard in prototype and the overall. Scott Pruitt taking over from Joey Hand, who started the Ganassi Ford EcoBoost Riley. Joao Barbosa now in the number 5 car, and Max Angelelli in the 10. Prototype Challenge. McMurray back in TUDOR Racing. It's been an interesting day in Prototype Challenge with cars on and off the racetrack. In GT Le Mans, John Edwards in the 24. No, he's given over to teammate Lucas Luhr. His driver changes take place under this full course. And in GT Daytona, the 007 Aston Martin up front. Driver change there. Yes, Christina Nielsen now behind the wheel. To Jamie.
Also a driver change for the 911. Patrick PILET out. Nick Tandy now behind the wheel. Patrick, you made quick work of getting to the front of the GTLM grid when the track was wet. What condition is the car in now that the track is dry?
It's a lot more tricky for us. We're missing a lot of power, especially in the first sector, to compare with BMW, and we're also struggling on the concrete part on the track. Yeah, it was really good at the beginning when it was damp or drizzling a little bit. But anyway, it's a long race. For the moment, the pace is not too bad, and we have to stay in front until the end and get ready for the last shootout.
With the conditions the way they are, what is Nick able to do while he's in the car to compensate for the changing conditions?
Yeah, we just, I make one stint and a half. Now I try to give some advice to Nick for the next stint, because it's really some wet spots still on track, and also the curb is really dangerous. Now the goal is for Nick to stay on contact of the BMW and stay in the top 3, and we will see if we can stay there.
It was fun to watch you get to the front. Thanks.
Believe it or not, the sun beginning to poke through over the racetrack. This is one of those years at Watkins Glen and the Sahlen 6 Hours when you could see all 4 seasons of the year take place in one 24-hour period. On board, BMW safety car, looking back at new race leader Scott Pruitt after a very, very canny pit strategy call by the Ganassi with Felix Sabates team.
31 car waited for that wave around, and now they bring Dane Cameron in. Andrew's there.
Yes, they have, and now they're putting the fresh Continentals on. We have a driver change as well, and everything in good order here. Fuel going in, which is the limiting factor, of course. The new Continental goes on the right front. Remember, these boys practice this so many times in the workshop. Right rear on, and off the jack, and away.
One of the few teams that are employing a 3-driver lineup in the prototype ranks. We see the Corvettes now hit pit lane.
This is the 4 car that was also a lap down, employing the same strategy to try to get back on that lead lap. Now the long lap under yellow will help them. Sometimes they won't get all the way back to the tail end of the field. They'll hustle, but the pace car is now just coming out of the toe of the boot, so they'll get close to, if not all the way back to the tail of the pack.
At the back, the pace car, you see the 01 has cycled to the front of the pack here. I mean, Joey Hand was very much in the mix, but what got them to the lead was the fact they made a great call, and we saw the car off to the side of the road. Let's listen in to what the radio communication was.
Joey, pit this lap, pit. Pit lane.
So just a great strategy call there by Mike O'Gara and the whole crew there to recognize we're going full caution.
Full course yellow, well done, mate.
It was that close, so they saw the car off, hit pit lane, made the commitment line. Great strategy, get to the front.
And with that, our third full course caution of the race thus far, almost an hour and 45 minutes into the running, and we are ready to go back to green at the Sahlen's 6 hours of the Glen. Scott Pruitt leading Max Angelelli, Joao Barbosa. Keep in mind, a lot of these drivers in the car for the first time, but not the guy way over on the left. Richard Westbrook still shown in the 90, and he is on the move again.
The 90 and the 5 tied for the lead in the championship coming into this race, and they're tied right now on the racetrack.
Should have a little more temperature in his tires than the guys that changed tires when they had the driver changes. But also remember the challenges that Joey Hand was having in that 01 car. So Pruitt's going to have to sort that out. There was probably some talk relaying that to him.
The track is a lot drier now, though. But remember, Scott Pruitt and Max Angelelli seeing their first laps of the race. Westbrook and Barbosa, excuse me, seeing his first laps also. Westbrook certainly very much in the groove.
Jamie is standing by with Joey Hand.
And Joey, it was a great strategy call, getting you in, getting that stop done right before the pits closed. But now that Scott's out front, what does he have to do to stay out front?
Well, it was a good strategy call by these Chip Ganassi Ford boys. You know, that's what it's all about. We knew when we get the 6-hour race, if we just keep ourselves clean and have a little bit of pace, we can count on these guys behind us for strategy. But you know, I think the car's probably one of the better cars we've had this year. It's really good on the entry. It's got a little bit understeer mid-off, but in the wet it was pretty good. In the half and half conditions was pretty good. So I don't know. We'll see what Scott says about it, but I could make a show of it. But it was going to be tough. If that was for the win there, it was going to be tough to race those guys to win.
There was a little bit of BOP adjustment coming into this weekend, but you were telling me earlier it was less than a 1% gain that you guys received. So what's been the key factor in making the pieces come together today?
Well, I think just coming out of trailer good. You know, I mean, we hit this one right a little better than we have. We definitely don't have the pace of the Chevys on a regular basis, and they tried to help us a little bit with the BOP. We appreciate that, but that's not what's happening here. We just did our homework. Again, the boys, my engineer John Hennig, they worked and they got this thing figured out. We came out of trailer better, and then on top of that, I just like this racetrack, you know. So I love driving here. I spent a little time in Europe, and I had these mixed conditions a lot over there, so I felt right at home with that. But just happy to be on this program, and you know, thankful for everything, and we'll just see what happens here with my boys, Scott Pruitt.
Joey sounds like it's pretty comfy, guys. Andrew?
I'm with Dane Cameron, just out of the 31 car, Dane. Very challenging early on with those conditions, but it got better as it went on.
Yeah, the start was pretty wild. You know, we were in basically the safety car map, which is no power, and if you can spin the tires and traction control in the safety car map, you know, it's pretty slick. So it was pretty dodgy there for the first couple laps, and then the track dried actually pretty quickly. It was kind of a weird tipping point where all of a sudden it was pretty slick and kind of misting still. And as soon as the mist stopped, it got really dry pretty quickly. But unfortunately, I had that puncture in the contact there, which is a bit disappointing. You got to be a little more aware than in your little world there.
Yeah, with the 38 car, how did you read that?
I mean, it happens a lot in this championship. Sometimes there's a lot of races happening around you. You got to be aware front and back. You can't just be looking out the front. So the 90 was going by, and I was right tucked up behind the 90. And as soon as the 90 was through, he decided he was going to go back to the right side of the road. So, and we were there. So it was kind of one of those disagreements on the same bit of real estate. But you know, you got to be aware and you got to be looking around. Disappointing, but it's the last hour that counts, not the first.
And you'll be back in the car for the last hour?
Yeah, I'll finish at the end. So we're back on the lead lap now. Car's fine, no damage to it. So, you know, we'll keep chipping our way back to the front.
Dane Cameron definitely in with a shout. Back to you in the booth.
All right, thanks, Andrew. And again, welcome back to Watkins Glen after 35 years away. Last time Andrew was walking the racetrack, Alan Jones was winning the 1980 and final U.S. Formula One Grand Prix here at the Glen.
Battle in GTD, there's been driver changes in both these cars. Ian James and Christina Nielsen running 1-2 with Mark Goossens in the Viper in third.
23 car coming off that brilliant victory on Belle Isle in Detroit just a few weeks ago. Their second victory of the season, following up on the win at Sebring, but this is going to heat up nicely. Christina Nielsen has really been a force in this category this year. The car is really strong. Has good straightaway speed as well, which is a nice thing to have here.
The body roll in the Aston Martin compared to the Porsche ahead.
Really compliant. I was noticing that earlier up through the S's where it's really noticeable.
Been there all year. It's kind of the way they run that setup, the platform, and you'd think it would hurt the aerodynamic ability of the race car, but certainly the compliancy and the mechanical grip They seem to have found a sweet spot with that car. I remember Jay Davison went on a tear with that car in terms of poles from last year through to the front end of this year. So shown tremendous speed.
Well, Kevin Buckler told us that if it was wet, they were ready with a setup that would work in the conditions. So now it's dry. In fact, we have patchy sunshine. I wonder if that's going to start to work against them a little bit. Is it ideal for the conditions? Jamie.
You guys just mentioned the 93 Viper with Mark Goossens behind the wheel. I just tuned into their radio commentary, and Mark was just telling Bill Riley that he just got hit in the back by another car out on the racetrack. So we might see them on pit lane. Bill asked him if everything was all right in the car, but Mark did not respond. So that's something to keep an eye on.
Let's go look at the car that won the Rolex 24 at Daytona to kick off the season of the TUDOR United SportsCar Championship. Back in action here in the Glen.
So much history, so much heritage. There's a special culture out there.
It's undulating, it's out in beautiful countryside, it's fast as anything. It's got everything, it's got the history, it's still an old school track, it's just like it was in the Formula One days.
The 6 Hours of Watkins Glen is one of the major endurance races. It's a fantastic race, draws a big crowd.
I think whether we're racing these really cool TUDOR sports cars or bathtubs on wheels, people in that area just want to come out and see people race.
Racing it is. Look at this battle in the GT Daytona class. All of the front runners, many of them drivers who just got in relief of their teammates. Spencer Pompelli, Ian James, Mark Goossens, Christina Nielsen. It's a battle of Porsches and Vipers and Aston Martins, you name it.
When we went to break, Spencer Pompelli, I think, was either 4th or 5th, got around a Viper, the Aston, and then the lead Porsche, all in about a lap and a half. Really hammer down in that Park Place number 73, the black Porsche at the front of the screen.
Let's hear from a GT driver who just got out of the Aston Martin. To Andrew.
Yeah, I'm in Kumo Whitmer. Kumo, I'm going to make you an honorary Brit, driving Aston Martin to the lead of that class.
Absolutely. I mean, you know how it is. I mean, these conditions started off very damp, and it takes two to tango. And for us today, it was an Aston Martin, Orion Energy, and the Continental tires. So with those three combinations together, we were able to really run the first stint on slick weather tires versus others and keep a lead. So the car's really strong, the team's really strong. TRG put a really, really good package together. Now my teammate Christina's in the car. She's really, really strong and very impressive. So let's see where the car goes. I mean, we still have 4 hours to go. Anything can happen.
You're subbing, of course, for James Davison, who's racing elsewhere. Would you like to keep working with this group?
Absolutely. I mean, the vehicle is really, really nice to drive, and the team is state-of-the-art. So, yeah, for sure, if another occasion came up, I think I would have to get out of Kevin Buckler's suit and get myself a new one.
Yeah, look at this, guys. He's Kevin Buckler. Kevin's only a short bloke. How the hell did he get into those?
Yeah, I think I'll cover that back up.
Right, I think it's that cheap hotel deal again. We won't go into that.
Only the best.
It got tight while he was talking. Christina was looking down.
That's what I was thinking.
Christina was looking down the inside of Ian James right when the GTLM Corvette was coming down the inside. Kind of like we saw with that PC car that got caught out. You know, they're locked into this intense battle, and then all of a sudden a lap car comes through. She succeeded in getting around Ian James and is now in second again. I started to say earlier, you know, I think Kuno making his living as a coach, I think, you know, that's something I think he relishes. It's just kind of how he's wired to spend time with Christina, and she's made an incredible progression from when she first came on the international scene, and now look at this. I mean, she's just went around a gold driver. I don't know if there's an issue with that 23 car. It looks like it was backing up pretty quickly, but you know, holding her own with the gold drivers, and she's rated silver.
And with that, with the PC and the GTD class, it's what we call a Pro-Am category, where you have to have drivers of a certain level to make the driver makeup, and you have to have a minimum of 1 silver driver, as you call it, Tommy. And it's all about your credentials, how much experience you have, and so on and so forth. But that silver driver, or a bronze driver for that matter, needs to do a minimum drive time of 90 minutes here today. So you have to play your part. They can't just be a token in and out, do a couple of laps. They have to play a significant portion of this race.
And those driver ratings are compiled by the international governing body, the FIA. Oh, what are the Vipers?
Ben Keating.
Is that the 33? Yes, it is. That was a wild ride.
Yeah, he's coming back from Le Mans as well, where he took his car to run over there. So he really enjoyed that experience. And he's one of the Pro-Am drivers as well, gentleman drivers, who doesn't earn his living from racing. Very successful Viper dealer, loves racing the Vipers, but got really quickly. He's got dirt on his tires right now.
Will he take the pit lane? No, he's going to stay out.
I think it's the right call. I'm not sure there's any damage on that car. He's just got debris on the tires, and he doesn't have the grip right now.
Gotta love GT Daytona racing. Porsche, Viper, and
damage on that front splitter, which is a pretty stout piece, but plowing through that grass.
You've got the Audi, you've got a Ferrari in the mix.
Wiggle, and he gets up on the wet curve.
He should have probably bailed on that a little bit earlier, because he was already a bit out of control there, and it wasn't going to get any better at that point. And with the amount of rain, that wet sod is just going to eat up the race car.
And he knew he had cars to his right on the racetrack.
Pruitt doing a great job up front. He's run some very fast lap times here. He's got about a 2.5 lead over Max Angelelli. It's like the old times, Pruitt versus Angelelli at the front of the pack.
Is there enough sod on the front of that Viper to make the radiator cook? On board now with Scott Pruitt. Got traffic problems of his own. Those are the 2 Alex Job Racing cars. Team Seattle, Heart of Racing Machine, the 23 right there.
It's experience at play right there, Bob. Didn't want any part of that.
35, it could have been okay, but just 35 years of experience saying, and it turns out that James did see him and was leaving some room, but he didn't know that until it was too late.
Yeah, Scott is so savvy. It's one he won so many championships over the years, and he realized too, spoke to him last night, he said, we need a result badly. Who would have believed that we'd have the sort of season we're having? But again, the big picture for the Ganassi Group and the Ford EcoBoost engine is that power plant is going to be in that new GTLM car for next year. So exciting times ahead for the whole group.
Interesting time in Scott Pruitt's career. He's got a glittering resume. He's won everything you can win, but now he's got an opportunity for a clean sheet of paper GT program leading to the World Endurance Championship in Le Mans. He's closer to the end of his career than the beginning at age 54. A lot of business interests, a family. What do you do if you're Scott Pruitt?
Well, I think he's going to stay in the game. I think he's very excited. He was very instrumental in that Ford program coming to Ganassi, you know, because he has great history with the brand. So he wants to be a part of that. I'm not sure how many more years he's going to be running full-time, but obviously with those type of programs, there's the endurance role that he could transition into, but he's definitely going to be a part of it next year. And I think there's a kind of a passing of the torch here this year with Joey Hand being his teammate. He's had other teammates over the, problem here on the starts on the 38.
38 again.
Ooh. Rough day for those guys since the hit.
Had contact into the tire wall, a couple of spins. Jerome B complained of suspension.
James French now behind the wheel.
Well, they sort that out. Scott Pruitt continues to thread the needle in traffic.
Dipped down into the 139 range, as has Joao Barbosa, so the track is getting better.
Spencer Papelli in the Park Place Porsche, leader in GTD that Pruitt just went by. Meanwhile, Ben Keating pits. Oh, he was getting radiator overflow there. That car was overheating.
Yeah, there's way too much block there.
This team did go testing last week at Putnam Park. Joey Hand did a couple of days, really just mainly worked on the TC, the traction control, and said they made a lot of gains there. So the car seems to work well on track surfaces where it's relatively smooth. The bumps of Detroit, they were not a happy place, but here the car is certainly more in its sweet spot.
Jamie was there for the 33 stop.
You can see this mess that they've left on pit lane, all of the grass and the mud that was stuck in the front end of that Viper. There's at least that much still stuck on there. They did go ahead and send the car. But one of the biggest holdups, though, was that Jerome Bleckemold was sitting on the top of their pit cart when all of this happened. They did go ahead and give him a couple of minutes to get his helmet on, his gloves, get suited and ready. So he was unexpected to get in the car, but he is now behind the wheel. Andrew?
Yeah, I'm with John Bennett here. John's just taking his headset off. John, how was your first session out there?
Yeah, it's not a lot of fun, but maybe a little defensive driving this morning to make sure we're in a good spot, so when James Gouet and Colin Brown get in the cockpit, they can really go to work. So I did my job, kept the car square, and we're in good shape.
Now you're leading the championship, but you still haven't got that win. Obviously robbed a victory in Daytona.
Yeah, it could be today. I mean, we're in good shape. We're exactly where it, according to our plan. So, you know, racing is full of a lot of unknowns. We'll just have to see.
Down the road a bit, you've got the Porsche team, which you're running. That's still going so well for you.
Yeah, it was you know, a great joy to share their Le Mans victory a couple of weeks ago in France, and then nice to have a pretty famous driver now, Nick Tandy, leading in one of our Porsches today here. So we're on the upswing over there.
Haven't seen you in Le Mans yet.
Maybe one day.
Maybe one day. Back to the booth.
All right, as you watch James Gouet, 5th in the Prototype Challenge class now. There's some flapping bodywork at the right rear of that car. The tail light not working. So somewhere along the way there was some contact. We'll take a break and return. Plenty more to come from Watkins Glen. Back at Watkins Glen, moments ago, we spoke with the man on the right, John Bennett, whose composites business is the basis of a growing motorsports empire. This weekend, he spoke with retired Marine Staff Sergeant Liam Dwyer. Dwyer grievously ended during his Marine tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, is a factory driver for Mazda in the Continental Tire Sports Car Challenge using a prosthetic left leg. He showed John how it works. Some wounded warriors on hand this weekend. Got a tour of the garage area. The first time Liam Dwyer and John Bennett have met. And here's the backstory. This device Dwyer is putting on Core Autosport driver Colin Brown is a special tourniquet for use in combat situations designed by John Bennett's business. It saved the life of Liam Dwyer when he was so grievously injured after stepping on an improvised explosive device in Afghanistan. So those two met for the first time this weekend, and Liam was able to explain to John Bennett how that device is the reason he is here this weekend. Military Appreciation Weekend here at Watkins Glen International. And there is John Bennett's race car, the Core Autosport Prototype Challenge car, still in 5th place. James Gouet driving, and that bodywork still flapping around the right rear.
Yeah, hopefully that'll hang on. And James Gouet is just the perfect addition to this team. I mean, he's got no baggage. He just comes in, plug and play, and went on a tear with this team last year, winning the first 3 big enduros of the championship. And they really like the job that James does, and brought him in. It's a shame that James doesn't have a full-time ride in this championship, because he has a lot of talent.
On board the 25 GT Le Mans class BMW.
And we heard John Bennett say Nick Tandy out front, but not by much. Really impressed with the pace that the BMWs have shown.
Dirk Werner now driving the 25, getting dark once again over the racetrack.
Yeah, Patrick said once this track started to dry out, the Porsche didn't have the performance advantage over the rest of the field. So this BMW, I think, is going to be awfully tough to beat here this weekend. They've got the grip in the dry and the wet. They've got the perfect combination right now. Dirk Werner behind the wheel of this car, and now Lucas Luhr behind the wheel of the black number 24 as well. A couple of Germans who are used to inclement weather.
You mentioned they were struggling on the concrete patches. You saw the BMW really close up a couple car lengths right there in that section. But Nick Tandy, I talked about it during the Le Mans coverage about how exciting he is to watch, and the guy just will not give up.
Just 8 minutes past the end of the 2nd hour of this race. Remember, at the 3-hour mark, we're going to award points toward the Tequila Patrón North American Endurance Cup. We spoke earlier, Calvin, about how the teams will be sort of reverse engineering, timing it out to the 3-hour mark to make sure they get maximum points and a shot at that big cash pool at the end of the season.
Well, it's so critical. It's hard to make up points in that championship, so these bonus points at the halfway mark here today can be really pivotal in this championship. So I know that Ian Watt Action Express has really worked on that hard over the past couple of seasons, and the guys will be doing it again today. Typically, you're back timing from the checkered flag, but for this race and also at Petit Le Mans at the end of our season, we'll be doing the same thing at key points in the race.
Points 1st through 4th, but only 1-point gaps. 5 for the leader, 4 for second, 3 for third, and so on. So it is hard to build a gap or close one. Meanwhile, let's talk Prototype Challenge once again. The 16 machine leads the class. Here's Jamie.
And Daniel Burkett started that car 7th on the PC grid, but you got up to the front and had a stout lead in the class. It's your first race in the series, your first race in Far One Motorsports. What's this experience been like?
It's been really great. You know, I've had nothing but success with this team. From the very first practice session, I've been really happy. It all came together on Wednesday night, and I got on the first plane out on Thursday. So just to be here is really great.
You came from Pro Mazda, so this is a big step up for you. What's the experience been like?
You know, it's definitely been a big step up. The biggest thing is the horsepower in the car. You know, I'm used to just over 200, and this has over 400. So just making sure the right foot doesn't go down too quickly is important.
Now, I know right now this is a one-off, but having the experience that you've had so far this weekend, how will that change things?
You know, well, the team's really happy, so that might lead to some more opportunities. We'll see going into the future. I'd love to keep on doing more of these. I had a blast, and I'd love to be back.
It's great to see fresh young faces. Thank you.
And welcome to Big League Sports Car Racing, Daniel. From the onboard, you saw that battle in GTLM, and you also saw raindrops on the windshield of the BMW.
Well, it was a great battle, and we talk about Nick Tandy, what a performance he's coming off from the 24 Hours of Le Mans, but we've seen him this year. He is one of the most aggressive drivers in that GTLM category, and he certainly gets the attention of a lot of his rivals and competitors, but he puts it on the line every weekend, and that's what we love to see.
Got to give a real shout out to Burkett. Now McMurray carrying the torch, but the distance they've got a lot. They're on the lead lap, even with the yellows. They've got a lot of cars in between first and second in PC, and it's interesting to have a guy with little experience to choose to start him in those difficult, tricky mixed conditions.
Well, there's a different strategy. I mean, some people look at, let's put our most experienced driver in for those tricky conditions, but in terms of the strategy of the race, that Pro-Am driver has to do a minimum of 90 minutes. So if you can get that done, then let your pro guy take it to the finish and fill out the remainder of the race. That's another option, certainly.
Key being, if you can get it done.
Yeah.
You know, we saw some experienced guys have some trouble.
You've got all 4 classes in that shot right there. Prototype, Prototype Challenge, GT Le Mans, GT Daytona. Now there's the 911 Porsche and GTLM having a problem. Let's listen to the most recent radio.
Nick, does it feel like this issue is getting any worse or staying the same?
It feels like it's getting worse. Very slightly, but the steering's not moving so much at an angle. So we're just picking up loads of oversteer on instantly loads of rear.
Steering issue.
And he says he's picking up loads of oversteer, which means the car's getting tail happy on him. So maybe there's something with the power steering possibly, Tommy, where he can't correct it and then he's not able to catch it. It's hard to really decipher from that short radio call that we heard.
Class leader in GTLM. We also understand the 007, third place in GT Daytona right now. Christina Nielsen's got an engine miss going on in that Aston Martin. Here she comes up the hill, out of your picture. As the battle rages among the 4 classes, 34 starters in this race. We'll be back with more from the Sahlen 6 Hours of the Glen, powered by Audi. Stay with us. Welcome back to Watkins Glen International in the Sahlen 6 Hours of the Glen, powered by Audi, round 6 of the TUDOR United SportsCar Championship here on Fox Sports. Moments ago, there was an incident on track, another incident of contact here at the Glen. Nick Tandy in the 911 Porsche factory GTLM car up ahead as you ride on the 25 BMW.
He's trying to hold on to that GTLM lead, and watch this, he tucks it to the inside of James Guay here. There's a little bit of contact, and he turns James around. Meanwhile, Werner goes to the front.
Let's listen to the radio as you ride on the Porsche.
And the 911 just do up underneath me and turn me straight to the wall.
James Guay obviously communicating to the team exactly what happened there.
I believe it was under review, and they said there's no action. I think they're going to wait for John Bennett to slip one of those tourniquets over Nick Tandy's head.
I love the battle at the front. We're looking at Scott Pruitt, who continues to lead in the 0-1 machine, and we talk about the old rivalry between he and Angelelli. Angelelli just went 100th of a second quicker than Scott Pruitt, so game on.
Fastest car on the track right now, John Pugh, back in the 60, did a 1:41.6. We're privileged to have join us in our announce booth right now the president of the International Motorsports Association and a very busy man over the last month or so, Scott Atherton. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks. Nice to be here, Bob.
Did you have a nice trip to France?
It was a long one this time. Not only the race, but then we started the process with the ACO and the FIA to select the constructors for the next generation prototypes.
Everybody is talking about what's going to happen with prototype.
Yeah, it's a long process, but it's being done absolutely the right way. It's frankly an honor to be a part of it with the ACO and the FIA. And there's been some speculation, especially this weekend, that things haven't been going well or there's a little contentiousness developing, and I'm here to say it's not the case. We have remarkable cooperation. Two very different approaches with this prototype. You know, we are going to be open to multiple manufacturers where the ACO will have a single engine. We will enable our manufacturers to add design cues if they choose. The ACO will not. But the underpinnings, the core of this car will be the same, and we will have the ability for our teams to race at Le Mans, and of course their teams to come race with us here as well.
And GT is also going to be a class with rules evolving as we go forward.
Yeah, the GTLM category, new regulations for 16, which will be a subtle evolution, nothing radical, but you will see some new cars on the grid next year. I think for us here in the TUDOR Championship, the most significant change will be the adoption of the FIA GT3 regulations for our GT Daytona class. Some would say it's about time. Others, you know, understand the reasoning behind it, all driven by the merger. But a lot of movement coming, and of course the announcements at Le Mans regarding Ford coming into GTLM couldn't be better.
That's huge news, certainly, but when you're moving so many pieces, Scott, there's always a domino effect, and when you talk about the performance of each individual class, how they stack up on the racetrack, we're seeing 4 classes running here together. You've got to be very careful how you make those decisions.
Yeah, thankfully we've got some of the brightest minds on the technical side of the equation here in our competition department as well. You know, as you see, there's a healthy separation among the classes here, and certainly the mandate and the expectations that is maintained going forward. With the evolution of the GT regulations, we continue to be confident that we can keep that separation and also keep the integrity of the cars. You know, we're not going to radically change a FIA GT3 spec. We'll manage that through weight and restrictor, but the core of those cars will remain intact.
We're covering a lot of ground here, Scott. I know you've not only been a series executive for a long time, you've also run racetracks. I know you treasure the relationships you have with your race promoters around North America. What do we know about next year's schedule?
I think the good news there is more of the same. One of the most significant byproducts of merging Grand Am and the American Le Mans Series together was the schedule. I mean, to be able to open up the season at the Rolex 24 at Daytona, followed by the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring, followed by Long Beach, followed by Mazda Raceway. I mean, it's as good as it gets. We've got a handful of renewals. The good news is everybody that is up for renewal has indicated a genuine desire to continue. We've got a lot of racing that we've put onto this schedule, so that kind of limits our ability to expand rapidly. But look for a similar schedule as we go forward.
One of the classes we have not yet touched on with you, Scott, is the PC class. It's been a great addition, initially with the ALMS and now obviously in the TUDOR Championship as well. Where do you see the future of that? I know there's some testing and evaluation going on this week at the Glen following the race today.
Yeah, exactly. We're trying to make fully educated decisions. Our PC class in the car that has been such a great addition to our grid there continues intact through the 16th season, but we're planning now for what comes after. What we are doing this week, tomorrow and Tuesday, we have the track rented, and we have one of the LMP3 cars, the Ginetta, that's been provided to us to enable our current PC competitors and some new folks that have indicated a desire to race with us in the future. Give them a chance to sample the car, get their feedback as well as that from others. It's potentially a good solution. It makes a lot of sense to evolve that car into what is today our PC class, but I want to emphasize no decision's been made.
But 2017 could have a very different look to the grid.
For sure, you know, new prototype at the head of the grid. You know, our prototype class, that new generation prototype in concert with the ACO, and the potential of a new PC car as well.
How close are we to having worldwide platforms for sports car racing that would allow not only interchange between the United States and Europe, but Asia and all the other places where sports car racing is popular?
I think we're there. And honestly, the one exception, of course, being the LMP1 category, which right now is unique to the World Endurance Championship and, of course, Le Mans. But in GTLM, our rules and regulations are a direct reflection of those rules of the ACO, so complete commonality there. Our adoption of FIA GT3 is, again, consistent with the European Le Mans Series and the Asia Le Mans Series. If we were to incorporate LMP3 in a manner similar or identical to that of the ACO, then we would add that category as well. So I think for the most part we're there. There's some differences in how we're going to approach our lead prototype class and how the ACO will incorporate LMP2, but there is that opportunity to race on both sides of the Atlantic.
One quick question. Sports car racing has seemed to deal so well, and this, of course, is down to the ACO and its efforts, to include progressive technology like hybrids. Formula One, by contrast, has struggled with it. Why do you suppose that is?
I think it is the cornerstone of what separates sports car racing from every other form of the sport, and that is the level of relevance that can be applied to the racing vehicle. And it's something that we were so proud of in the American Le Mans Series, of having a manufacturer-based platform that not only allowed but encouraged manufacturers to bring technology to the racetrack that had a direct link back to the road car. You know, I wish LMP1 was a sustainable category on a domestic level, because that technology being developed right now is spot on to what those manufacturers are applying to their road cars. We have it absolutely in our GTLM class. These race cars that are competing out there today are directly linked back to the production line. Ford coming with their EcoBoost motor is just the latest addition.
Great. Well, we want to thank you for taking the time to come and chat with us. I know you're a very busy man right about this time of year, Scott, so thanks very much.
Appreciate the opportunity. It seems like a great race, and the sun's coming out.
It is that. Green flag pit stops. Here comes the race leader. Andrew is there.
Yes, I am, but it's not even that way yet. Here it comes with the EcoBoost all over the front. Stops gently, and the Ganassi team are seeing if they're going to take, yes, they're taking all four tyres, putting Continentals on. The fuel is going in. No driver change for this pit stop. So, Pruitt stays at the wheel. What a remarkable man he is, Scotty, you know, with his vineyard. So he's so excited about this new Ford program. And how old is he? Over 50. Inspiration as he disappears down the pit lane away from me.
Green flag pit stops continue. Again, our thanks to Scott Atherton, president of IMSA, for joining us. We'll take a break. There are your four class leaders. We'll be back with more of the Sahlen 6 Hours of the Glen, powered by Audi.